welcome to Off the Fence, brought to you in association with BoyleSports, of course, and this is it. These are our 4 special shows, our 4 daily shows ahead of the Cheltenham Festival. Obviously, day 1, we're going to be looking at Tuesday's races, kicking off with the Supreme all the way through to the National Hunt Chase, and I get to do it in the company of Barry Geraghty and Tony Keenan. We'll be doing these shows all week long, and of course, when the week kicks off proper, we will also be looking back at a few of the main talking points from the race days as well. So you'll be seeing plenty of us, courtesy of BoyleSports, lots of special prizes coming your way, all sorts of different bits and pieces, but mainly we want to point in the direction of winners. That's what we're after. Let's check in with the boys. Tony Keenan, how are you?
I think I'm scoping a little bit dirty now this afternoon, unfortunately, so hopefully that's only going to exacerbate my accent, which has already had the piss taken out of it this weekend by Paddy Powers. I'm nearly afraid to mention the word El Fabiolo after what was done to me there last night, but I think I got off pretty late compared to some of the lads. Good bit of crack, all right.
I was going to say, A, I think they were pretty kind to you for starters, and B, you're taking it much better than a few other people, I believe. So, well played, that man. It means that until I get into one of those Paddy Power sketches, I feel like I just haven't made it in life, and I could be a long time waiting. Barry, I'm sure you've been in a few of them over the years, but you've also been making various TV appearances, I hear.
Yeah, I was on the Late Late Show along with Davy Russell on Friday night, so... big Irish chat show. It was good fun. Patrick Keelty presented. We wound up racing 3 rocking horses across the studio, but Patrick managed to turn his over. I was having a bit of a wrestling match with Davy, who told me home, and Davy won a short head.
Oh no, God. Well, he's in Dancing on Ice, isn't it? Dancing with the Stars, is it still? So he's got other things on his plate at the moment. But anyway, let's not focus in on that. Let's focus in on the Cheltenham Festival. That's what we're here to talk about. These are going to be short, sharp, snappy shows, like I said earlier, pointing in direction of winners. Barry, you've landed in Cheltenham and I only live an hour or so away. The rain has just relented a little bit, but how is the mood there in Cheltenham? You probably don't have a huge amount to report just yet.
Not much, no. I only arrived an hour ago, went down to the shop now, but it was Cheltenham a normal day really, so you wouldn't just get the festival vibe yet. But I'm sure if you went to some establishments, you might find a few renegades getting stuck in, but no, it's a good bit of rain on the way here, but it has eased off. There's rain forecast for Tuesday, I believe, but I think tomorrow's given reason to be good.
Right, yeah, fingers crossed the rain stays away. We could just do without that for all sorts of reasons. But let's kick straight on. Tony, we will, of course, start with the Supreme. We've been umming and ahhing about where Ballyburn will go, and, of course, he doesn't show up here. We don't need to go over old news, though, and the field looks like this. Tully Hill up at the top of the market, 3-1, along with Mystical Power in there. Firefox next best. Slade Steele goes here, avoiding Tully Hill. Jericho de Repine, your next best in the single figures, and it's bigger prices there after. So this is our final lineup for the Supreme. How good a field do you think it is, Tony?
I'd say it's a field of potential more so than proven horses at the moment. I think it was pointed out there that there's not a single Grade 1 winner in it, which would be quite unusual. But there are a lot of horses that would have serious potential, kind of more lightly raced horses. I think it's going to be a really interesting betting race. I suppose the one horse you don't really want to be on is the Willie Mullins Drifter. You know, if you're going to settle into to back in one of his, you'd like it to shorten up in the market, because I think it's going to be so important when he has so many horses in it. I think I spoke on our last podcast there about the how they tend to be quite accurate in sorting their pecking order with these kind of novice hurdles, this race and the Gallaghers on Wednesday. Maybe that mightn't play just as much. You've got 2 that are quite closely matched at the top of the market and some interesting kind of outsiders. I suppose just a theme for the day with the Mullins horses, which kind of really surprised me when I saw the declaration this morning, was the number of first time hoods he's going with. And
I like to joke on social media that they must have had a special delivery down there.
Yeah, well, I don't know, bad sense of humour or anything, but it's serious stuff, because he's putting it on a lot of fancied horses. We've got Mystical Power and Mr. Giff here, or Mr. Giff in the first. Gaelic Warrior's getting one, Embassy Gardens getting one, Ashrow Diamond is getting one. I had a little look back at his stats in the first time hood. to be honest, it'd be an overall negative. I haven't looked specifically at the festival or Grade 1s or anything like that, but just overall, kind of the last 20 years, I'm sticking the first time hood on, his strike rate would be about 17.5%. And kind of a heavy enough 58 point level stake loss, an actual over expected of 0.62. Just for context there, so the strike rate in the first time hood is about 17.5%. Willie Mullins' base strike rate with all jumps runners in that time is like 25.5%. So that's a little bit of a concern, and I suppose the hood form angle didn't work out too well in Naas today with Mirror Zero West in the first time hood, kind of still racing quite keenly and probably been a bit disappointing in the King's Force Novice Hurdle. So it's just something to bear in mind with those horses, and maybe in the rest of the week we're going to see kind of similar application of hoods. But look, he is a trainer who would like to tinker with things a bit, and I'm sure they're not doing it for the aesthetics of it.
No, absolutely. And so, Barry, will it have been a tough decision for Paul Townend, do you think, given how close in the betting Mystical Power and Tully Hill are? Was that, well, I mean, I know Mark Walsh actually will obviously ride Mystical Power, and that's pretty standard, but in terms of Paul and, like, do you think Tully Hill, I suppose the question I'm asking you is, do you think Tully Hill was the horse mid-season he'd have thought he'd have been riding in the Supreme, or do you think this has turned out a little bit differently?
I'd say Paul never knew what he was going to be riding in the Supreme, and I'd say he was surprised he even knew during the week that I'd guessed he was only going to find out today being Sunday, which would be kind of standard with Willie. But Tully Hill has improved, so he definitely would not at Christmas. He wouldn't have thought he was going to be riding Tully Hill, but he was good last time. It hinged on Ballyburn, I suppose, but Tully Hill is a good, he's a good ride for him to have. I think he has a good chance, but it's a very open race, and I'd agree with Tony, lots of potential. There isn't a Grade 1 winner amongst them, but there could be a good horse there in time. Interestingly, Slade Steele goes here instead of going for the Gallaghers over 2.5, possibly avoiding Ballyburn as well. So like there's a little bit of interest to it. Plenty of chance. I thought Firefox go back to his beaten Ballyburn, go back to his bumper form against Atlantique. He's a very smart horse. I thought for me he could be the one, but I thought the value, maybe tell her the name. Good form and better ground. You'd like to think by Tuesday, with a dry day tomorrow, it'll be getting back to good to soft, where they're currently calling it soft. I think one of the big chance at a good price in a very open race.
Tony, did you want to have a last word in terms of any selection in the race?
Yeah, I have to choose. It's going to be quite a light betting day for me. There were 3 races here I've little to no opinion on, but I do have an opinion here. I like Mystical Power. I kind of, this is set up, I kind of wanted to back him taking on Tully Hill and not Ballyburn. I think that there's a lot of potential with this horse. I was more impressed with what he did to Geraghty than what Tully Hill did to him. Like Tully Hill kind of got the lead on Geraghty and was kind of able to control that race, whereas Mystical Power came from behind. I was also coming off a break when they met in Punchestown in the Moscow Flyer. So I was kind of more impressed with that. And I also think kind of Mystical Power's got just more scope to improve. Where something like Tully Hill, even Ballyburn, they came from the point-to-point field. They had a bumper season last season. Mystical Power only started his career kind of out in the spring. So he's only had the 3 runs. And I also like the fact that the better ground is coming. Like he's by Galileo. I think the sound surface is going to suit better. Like I know maybe it's going to be soft, but it's English soft compared to some of the stuff he has raced on Punchestown there back in January. It has to be kind of better. Slade Steele's a very likeable horse. He just wonders, is he going to be done for toe, but nothing will probably be staying on better. I think Firefox, probably a poor enough price really, considering the kind of what he's coming into this race off the Lawlers run. He's kind of shorter from 20s, he's kind of into 4s or 5s in the interim just for standing in his box, so I don't know what that says about the race. But Mystical Power is kind of broadly the same price as he was after the Moscow Flyer. I'm happy enough to take a chance. His jumping is a bit of a worry, but it did improve as the race went on the last day, so I'm happy enough to plump for him.
Okay, Mystical Power then for Tony, and a bigger price shout, tell her the name, for Barry in the first. Let's roll on to the Arkle. Barry, I shall start with you here, because if we're talking about Paul Townend and his rides, Gaelic Warrior is going to give him something to think about in an Arkle. Do you think they've ended up in the right race with him?
I suppose it all depends what Gaelic Warrior turns up. He bombed out last time at Leopardstown, and it's he needs to be an awful lot better than that. It wasn't the trip that beat him at Leopardstown. He was beaten jumping the third last. He was out cold. So for whatever reason, but if he can turn up with the form that he showed in Punchestown and at Limerick, but even go back to what he's done over hurdles as well last season, second in the Ballymore, and second in the juvenile, the Boodles, the year before that. So he has good form, although he was beaten at 2 festivals. But to me, he is the class act in the race. And if he pulls it together, he will be hard to beat. Now, he wears the hood as well for the first time. He does jump slightly right, but that was a big negative for me through the season for when he would go left-handed. But I just felt in Leopardstown he didn't jump as badly right as I expected him. There's a good bit of pace here in this race. You have JPR1, you have Matata, you have lots of them. He could potentially look for cover down the inside on him. And the hood would suggest they're possibly going to do that and try and switch him off. So it's going to be interesting. Like it's a competitive race. Elete Tomp found a 50, all horses with chances. I thought Matata was another one at a big price. On a line through JPR1, he was second to him in Linkfield, only beaten half a length. He's a far bigger price than JPR1, and I think he's a horse who could run well in what's an open race, and a question mark about Gaelic Warrior. But Gaelic Warrior, to me, is the class act.
He is indeed. I would agree with that, but there's just too many question marks for me, Tony. I'm a forgiving nature generally, but just everything off the back of the run last time, his jumping, his prelims, this new hood angle. I don't know. There's too many question marks for me. He might be talented, and we know. Well, he is talented, but it's a no from me. I just don't know what the other option is.
Yeah, I think your last point sums it up there. I don't know what the other option is. Every horse I've kind of fancied for this isn't running. I'd only be pretending to have an opinion on it. I think it's a really interesting race, but I just don't have a betting view on it, and I think I'll just leave it at that and watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a bit the same. I think I'll enjoy watching it. I'll enjoy dissecting it afterwards, but it's one of those races that is a trappy little heat. Let's move on, Tony, and we will tackle the Ultima. Meeting of the Waters is now the favourite, well, has been the favourite for this for a long time, but is now in the McManus colours, 9-2 at the top of the market. The Goffer in it again at 11-2. Chianti Classico in there at 7-1 for Kim Bailey. As you would expect, very competitive, Tony. Is this one of the races that you have managed to find a bet in on day one?
No, God no, failing this in the impossible category here as well. It's a very English race, so bar the favourite maybe in Stumptown there. But there is one Irish horse though at a big price. I'm going to have something on him, but it will be small. It's Bustleton, Joseph O'Brien's horse. He's running for 145 here. He was off 149 when he was fifth in the Coral Trophy a couple of seasons back. And shaped quite well in that, went kind of up with a strong pace and lasted a long time. It was an advantage for horses to be ridden a little bit off the pace there. I think the first 2 or 3 kind of were ridden with restraint. Things haven't really gone right for him since, but I'd say a lot of that is to do with him racing on soft to heavy ground. But I think this season has been a little bit better. You're talking about Meeting of the Waters and the Paddy Power Chase form. Bustleton actually ran really well in that to make the frame. On ground he probably doesn't like. He went back to Leopardstown for the Leopardstown Chase at the Dublin Racing Festival, and I think that's a run you can forgive completely. He was hampered on at least 3 separate occasions, eventually pulled up, kind of never got any chance. But 3 miles on a bit of nice ground, he definitely wouldn't be the worst outsider in the world. I'm going to have something small on him each way.
Yeah, intriguing. A sort of small and select team coming over for Joseph O'Brien, but it wouldn't be a surprise if he was to have a good week with some of those horses. Barry, is this? I know it's a trappy contest, but and I can see all the claims for the favourite, Meeting of the Waters, obviously, but surely in a race like this, there has to be value elsewhere, like Tony's managed to scoop out.
Yeah, potentially. You would have to respect Meeting of the Waters. He put up a big performance in Leopardstown, but he's up £17 for that. But he has to have his chance, I suppose. The one I like is Trelan, who looks to be Kim Bailey's second string. Harry Cobden rides him, which is a notable booking as well. But he's a length and 3/4 behind Crebley the last day at Exeter, and he's only 3 3/4 lengths behind Grey Dawning and Genie's Delight at Cheltenham back in December. That's a good level of form. And I thought, with that course experience, he's 1 from 4 over fences, but well placed on the other 3 efforts. I thought he was a horse who'd have a shout here.
Okay, Trelawn then. Yeah, Kim Bailey got a couple of chances in there. Let's move on. Big race of the day, Champion Hurdle, of course, and you all know what it looks like by now. State Man, a very short price favourite, up at the top of the market, around about 4 to 11 as we currently record this. But he is taking on now Irish Point, which of course at many points during the season we did not expect to see him in a champion hurdle, but he is. Second favourite, Iberico Lord, another one not expected in here a few weeks back, but has been supplemented 12 to 1. Not so sleepy after that. Big prices, Zarek the Brave, Lucia, the likes of those sort of horses. Is there a way to play this, Tony, either with the favourite or without the favourite?
Yes, I think so. The best horse doesn't always finish second or third in the champion hurdle. We had Zana here, coming into third last season. He was the outside of the field after the big two. Sharjah was a horse that was always ridden to place in this race. And over the years, horses at big prices can get into the frame because maybe more fancy ones get into duels with the winners and that. So I think Irish Point is possibly worth opposing here in the without market and the place market. He's got weird form coming into this, dropping back from 3 miles. I don't mind getting with those horses when they're, maybe disrespected in the market, but he's completely respected in the market. And there is a chance he gets taken off his feet. He didn't handle the early pace at all at the Dublin Racing Festival last season when Ilete Thompson won the 2 mile Grade 1 race. Now he's won a couple of races at 2 miles since then, but they've been really steadily run races at Naas and at Down Ryle, and I just don't know what you can glean from those. Does it kind of mean an awful lot? So if you're taking him out and you're looking for something else, I think what you've got English handicap form versus Irish handicap form, and I just want to mention a couple of the ratings here in this. So we'll start with Iberico Lord. He was off 134 on the Betfair and won well and has loads of potential. Nemean Lion was off 140 in his last run. I think it was the Lanzarote or that, and Lucia won at Ascot off 136. But Zarek the Brave won the Galway Hurdle off 145, so that kind of would put him a little bit ahead of those, and it was a really good achievement to win the Galway Hurdle off 145 because he was a 4-year-old at the time, and tends not to be a race for those kind of younger horses. You need a more hardened handicapper. He beat a horse in Jesse Evans that would be a real race specialist, and kind of My Mate Mozzie was third in that race again. Has gone on since that, and I thought the way Paul Townend rode him is to win the race rather than to put up a kind of an impressive performance. Things went kind of, I suppose, sideways for him when he ran in Tipperary after that, but he has since come back to form at Naas. Kind of a good effort off a break there to win. And also, a lot of chat maybe where would lost him out figuring the champion hurdles. Zarek the Brave was not an awful lot of way behind her, especially at Punchestown last season, where he was kind of coming into that of a break, having not run since the previous late November, early December time. Sort of give her a bit of a race with Gallimore showing behind. Inclined to forgive his French run a bit. I'd say he probably bounced after that. Now the one advantage that he has is I think he's probably going to be ridden to place. The yard have the favourite. They kind of are aware probably of what the tactics are going to be. He's a 5-year-old. They might kind of be using this to lead on to kind of other races. I'd say they'd be absolutely delighted for him to finish in the 3. So I've kind of backed him in all the markets. I've backed him without the favourite. I've backed him place. I've backed him 4 to be placed there. I think he's a good price. I think he should be clear third favourite. Based on I just think the Irish handicap hurdle form might be stronger anyway, but also the fact that he's kind of done it off higher marks, and just think he's overpriced if playing without the favourite is your thing.
Oh, excellent case made by Tony for Zarek the Brave. Then Daryl Jacob will be in the saddle on the Willie Mullins runner behind obviously a stable mate. Intriguing. I like the sound of that. Did you like the sound of that, Barry?
I did, and I'd agree with a lot of us. I'd definitely have a question mark over Irish Point, and he will be ridden forward because stamina is his key. Zarek the Brave would have to have a shout, in his current form as well. But I thought Nemean Lion, on a similar kind of vein as Tony mentioned with Zarek the Brave, Nemean Lion potentially didn't get the trip as well in the Lanzarote, but was a winner of the Kingwell Hurdle next time at Wincanton, put up a good performance. So he's up to 151. He's in a similar bracket as Zarek the Brave, but a fancy price, and I would definitely have those two competitive with Irish Point and well capable of giving him plenty to think about. But obviously Stateman looks to be out on his own here.
Okay, so a couple of bigger priced horses given a shout above the likes of Irish Point, who I think we're all in agreement. This isn't he's not for us in this race. Let's move on then to the mares. the Mayor's Hurdle. And again, I mean, it's a little bit rinse and repeat job in the sense of the fact that we've got a very short price at Willie Mullins horse in Lossiemouth up at the top of the market, 8-13 currently with BoyleSports. Below her, we've got another Willie Mullins horse in Ashray Diamond, of course, bringing the Doncaster form. Love Envoi in here, Mary's Rock as well. But then further down, Tell Me Something Girl. Tony, you have tipped her up on this show already. She's now 16-1 with BoyleSports. She has been bigger prices, but people seem to be latching on to her a little bit. Are you abandoning her now, or have you had any change of opinion at this stage?
No, I'm happy enough to stick around. I wouldn't pass too much remarks on her moving her from 20s or 25s into 16s, but she does have the course form and things like that. The favourite obviously is very strong and the vibes are very solid, but I'm happy enough having a small bet each way on her and maybe try to have a few quid on her in the places. I wouldn't be averse to having a small bet either on Hispanic Moon, kind of each way or in the places either. Her form claims aren't obvious, but I thought the visuals were really good. Both her runs at Punchestown, she had excuses at Leopardstown at Christmas. Ashray Diamond there would the obvious each way alternative to the favourite. One thing about her is I would be waiting to see what the ground is like. I think all of her better efforts have come on nice ground, and depending on what kind of rain falls between now and then. But no, Tell Me Something Girl, very much my main selection in this race.
Okay, sticking with her then. And Barry, what about you in the Mares?
Well, sure, obviously a bit like Statement, Lossiemouth is going to be very hard to beat, and probably, won't be beaten. I imagine she's going to be rock solid. But I would be giving a little squeak to the other of Kenny Alexander's runners, the Gala Massou, who disappointed in Punchestown last time, but she obviously comes over and takes her chance. She was 4.5 lengths behind Ashray Diamond, giving her £3 in Doncaster on her first run of the season, so she's entitled to improve for that, but she didn't at Punchestown. A little bit of forgiveness needed, but the fact of bringing her over and Danny Mullins rides her over Echoes and Rain, I think speaks that she has a chance. So she was towards the head of the market, with the exception of Lossiemouth, up until that disappointment at Punchestown. So I think I'd give her another little life, and she could be one for a bet without the favourite or each way or so.
Okay. On we go to the Boodles. Tony, have you had chance to get stuck into this juvenile handicap at this stage?
Yes, I have kind of a bet and a half in this race. Main selection, I like Miss Manzoor in this. She's not a kind of a plot horse into this, as she won last time out, but I think she's quite well weighted with some of the fancied horses in this. Batman Geraghty is 7-1. I think he's quite tricky horse, and Nadawi is 8-1, but Miss Manzoor's 14s. I think there's cases for saying she should beat both of those. She's 2.5 lengths behind Batman Geraghty at Christmas, and she's a little bit worse off with the weights then, but Batman Geraghty had fitness on his side then, and Miss Manzoor took a big jump for that first run in Ireland for Willie Mullins when she was back to Fairyhouse next time. So I think she's improved past Batman Geraghty as far as I'm concerned. And she beat Nadawi 3.5 lengths then, getting £2, and now she's going to get £4 from that one. Then maybe Nadawi has improved in the interim at Naas, but I'd say Willie Mullins is going to keep this juvenile kind of improving, and she's kind of 12-14-1. I think she's quite a good each way bet there. The other one I'd throw into the mix, kind of to lesser stakes, but I would also fancy him, is Palamon. He's more of a horse that has kind of just been aimed at this one all season. Kind of a 79 rated flat horse, so does have that bit of ability. Would kind of be bred for a bit nicer ground as well. His kind of first and second run were all a bit experienced, but at Naas they were all about kind of getting the mark and getting him qualified. He made a lovely move from the back of the field, kind of from to quarter point in the race, and flattened out a little bit late, but I can see him improving again on that. Paul Nolan, there's a big kind of trainer angle with him at the meeting in terms of handicap hurdles and this race specifically. So Paul Nolan is a very good strike rate. He's had 11 runners in handicap hurdles at the meeting, and he's won 2 of them, with 5 others making the first 7, which is pretty impressive. Like you're talking about Coral Cups and Pertemps, where every field is 20 runners plus, and he's had 4 runners in this race. He's won it once, had a 4th and had a 6th. So I think Palamon around 20s is also kind of interesting. So it is quite an Irish race there. So yeah, I would have a bit of an opinion that they might be 2 to be interested in.
Okay, so yeah, Palamon is currently 20-1 with BoyleSports. As we record this, I will reiterate, it is Sunday afternoon, and Miss Manzoor is 12-1 with BoyleSports. So 2 interesting, slightly bigger, well, one very bigger price and one sort of middle of the market, Miss Manzoor. Up at the head of the market, Barry, we've got Lark in the Morning for Joseph O'Brien. He's got 2 in this with Harsh as well, but Lark in the Morning is currently 11-2, which feels very short for a race like this, given what he's done so far, this horse.
Yeah, but I suppose he's potentially well handicapped too. The two I came down, Gordon has a good record in the race, and Nadawi, he looked to progress nicely through his maidens and won nicely, but he has to make that step up in grade if you like. But the other one, Batman Geraghty, disappointed badly on his first run in Ireland, having won in France prior to that. He was a hot favourite for that run in Furious, I think it was, when he ran poorly, but stepped back in the right direction again in Leopardstown. I think there's still potential for improvement in him. And his form ties in obviously well with Cala Conti and Cargies. So I think he is a horse worth respect, and they'd be the two for me, but it is a bit of a minefield. As a jockey, you'd be scratching your head wondering what's going to win it, and I'm sure as a punter you'd be doing the same.
Yeah, it's a race I like, but I've not had much luck in it in the past from a punting point of view. Let's wrap up with the National Hunt Chase, obviously for the amateurs, and unfortunately for Tony, the anti-post selection of Broadway Boy won't run here. We'll run in the Brown Advisory instead. We've got a pretty classy field lining up with arguably a couple of horses at the front of it who some may say should be in a Brown Advisory. Embassy Gardens is one of them, 7-4, top of the market, ridden by Patrick Mullins, and Corbett's Cross, Derek O'Connor, is currently 2-1 for, of course, Patrick's cousin Emmett Mullins. Those are your top two. Those are the sort of class acts. But then after that comes Salvador Ziggy with a very different preparation, very different winter. Haven't seen him for a long time for the Gordon Elliott Yard. And those top three is really where the betting focus is, Barry. I think we've got classy horses in here, but I'm not sure which of those top three is like cut out for this specific test, because it is really quite a unique test.
Yeah, and another interesting one that Willie Mullins has put a hood on Embassy Gardens. So that's going to help him, if you like, to some degree. But he's the horse I did feel was the one. If you're to talk, there's a matchup between those three at the head of the market. I thought Embassy Gardens, just his size. He disappointed last year's festival and struggled there after that. But he's a big, massive horse. I'd say he's over 17 hands. Jumped brilliantly on both his starts today over fences. I think his racing style is going to suit this race better, maybe in Corbett's Cross. I'm not fully convinced with the pace he showed in the 2 mile novice hurdle last year when he beat Found 50. If you have that pace, I'm not fully certain you're going to get 3 mile 6, or even your racing style is going to help you get that trip. So I'd have a question mark with him. Salvador Ziggy obviously coming the handicap route through the Kerry National, and that it has to be of interest. But the one that I know was preferred that Appleway was a preference was for the Ultima with Lucinda Russell, and she was very keen and thought had a great chance. Now I remember mentioning after its win in Leicester early in the season, I thought she was one for this race. The 3 mile 6 would suit her, stays really well. So she's £14 wrong with the top two, but she's a £7 allowance, so she's only £7 wrong with the top two. And if she was going to have a squeak in the Ultima, she'd have to be well capable to have £7 or £8 or £10 up her sleeve. So I think she could be value for one to get involved. Now you only have 7 runners, so your each way is only first 2 places. But she's one at a fancy price, I think, who could outrun her odds. But for me, in the match at the head of the market, I'd be with Embassy Gardens.
Which is intriguing in itself, because I know it's not that you're not a fan of Corbett's Cross, but you're not a fan of him for this race. Is that right? Because we've spoken about him very fondly in the past.
Yeah, exactly. When a horse has that much pace, it's very hard to get them into that quiet rhythm, and they travel too well, get competitive. I'm just not convinced that, for me, the 2.5 mile would be the one. But he's here. He has a great chance. But I just think the Embassy Gardens style of racing would suit better.
Tony, was it you that flagged up that Willie Mullins interview after Embassy Gardens won at Naas? Isn't that the interview that you fired into the WhatsApp group for us to take a listen to, because of a few points in there, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Sean O'Keefe was riding for Willie Mullins at Gowran Park yesterday, and he was around the outside the whole way, so obviously he'd been told on that. I have no opinion on this. Corbett's Cross and Embassy Gardens, my initial thought was to get against them. I did fancy Broadway Boy to run a bit of a race in this, but there's just not really an awful lot in there to take them on, and if I do have a bet, I'd say it'll be a very small one and not worth mentioning to anyone.
Okay, perfect. Well, look, that wraps up a run through of day one. Barry, just actually a couple of last things to pick up, I suppose, because of course we are still looking at, what might run Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, trying to keep ahead of the game. Tony, is there anything that you want to flag up at this early stage before the sort of racing gets underway for later on in the week?
Yeah, just the nature of the fact that we're doing these 48 hours out, there's advantages and disadvantages. Hopefully this is the advantage. I had looked at the Coral Cup there yesterday for the first time in any sort of detail, and there's a horse in it that I came across, but I think he's going to go for the Martin Pipe, and I think he's potential shortener in the Martin Pipe. Yates Star, 5-year-old trained by Gordon Elliott. I just think it's more likely he's going to go for the Martin Pipe. They would be interested in the Coral Cup, just to make the case for him. Well, interesting enough, this horse is not going to mention anywhere in any stable tours with Gordon Elliott in the last month, which I'm actually kind of taking as a positive, this type of thing. But look, he has never run a bad race in his life. Is the first kind of pointer. He's a very kind of consistent horse, and I thought he shaped really well with things going against him in the race Maxim won at the Dublin Racing Festival that Geraghty was second in, and Geraghty is the favourite for the Pertemps, and this horse was right behind her in the 3 mile handicap race at the Dublin Racing Festival, despite having a much less kind trip through the race. He lost his position early and kind of got shuffled back through the field and coming to 2 out. I thought Danny Gilligan was a little bit slack in asking for his effort. I thought he could have moved a bit quicker, and then kind of after 2 out on the turn in, he got caught in a pocket, and the horse just finished off his race really well. And looking at that, you'd be saying, oh God, maybe he really wants a 3 mile race. But funny enough, the Martin Pipe over the years has been a race for stayers. Numerous Gold Cup horses have won it, Galloping the Champs and Don Poley and sort of Champs, like some Gold Cup winners in there, some Grade 1 3 mile chasers in there. And I'm not saying Yates Star is of that ilk, but I'm saying that he has the kind of requisite stamina for this race. And I'm just thinking with the fact that Danny Gilligan has ridden him the last twice, that maybe this would be the idea that they might come back for something like this, because like, you know, he's going to be one of the top jockeys riding in the Martin Pipe, based on the kind of record he's had in good Irish handicaps over the last 12 months or so. 20 to 1 there at the moment. I think he's a big price, and he's one that I would see shortening a bit, with the hope that he does turn up in the Martin Pipe on Friday.
Okay, one to keep an eye on for then. An eye out for, I should say. And Barry, what about you? Is there anything that you want to flag up for further down the line?
Yeah, well, one a little bit more obvious. I think reading Tommy Wrong put in a brilliant performance at Naas, and I am sweet on him, but I just think he's still overpriced in the Albert Bartlett. He's there about 5 to 1 or so. I'd imagine he's going to go off much shorter, somewhere around 11 to 4, 3 to 1 or something like that on Friday. So if you had a fancy on reading Tommy Wrong, I wouldn't be waiting on it.
Okay, like that. Looks like he'll be the one to shorten in the Albert Bartlett. Of course, we will be bringing you all the daily shows. We've recorded Tuesdays on Sunday. We'll be recording Wednesdays on Monday evening. So it'll all be coming your way, and then we'll be into the week. And as I said at the top of the show, we're going to be dissecting some of the news stories and the big performances, but we'll also be tipping up horses for Thursday and Friday. So we've got loads coming your way on Off the Fence. Boys, Barry Geraghty, Tony Keenan, thank you so much as ever. I'll be chatting to you tomorrow. Everyone out there, have a good one. Hopefully you're watching this on your way to Cheltenham or the night before, and the mood is very buoyant, as it is with us. Best of luck for this week, and join us for the rest of our shows. But for now, that was Off the Fence, Cheltenham Festival, Day 1, done.